you check the children. Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
And you got Jaime and Fuego here.
Continuing our comic book reviews of the Cape series, which is based on a short story by Joe Hill, son of Stephen King.
Son of the King.
Now, we really enjoyed the first series. There was a one-shot and a 4-issue series that immediately followed, so basically one 5-issue storyline, and that was it. It was pretty conclusive with the ending and everything. Then they went ahead and released this, which was a prequel series that took place, obviously, in Vietnam, that gave a bit of an origin to the Cape itself.
Yeah, and this is where we have to get into some distinction in the fact that, like, the original Cape series was basically, like, taking Joe's story, expanding upon it, filling in some guts, you know, doing some, like, you know, what would have happened afterwards, whereas this is very much what possibly happened beforehand and explaining mythology more so than anything else. So,
And again, to give credit where credit's due, we'll show the actual credits of this book, and I'll show
same team.
issue by issue. So this is only 4 issues compared to the 5 before, but it is all about the father of both Eric and Nick from the first series.
exactly. Chase, who was over in Vietnam, it's 1969. He has been sending
In
letters.
fact, it starts off with them hearing the
Reading a
story
letter.
from
Yeah.
the mom. Hearing a letter, correct.
Yeah, so each issue is actually prefaced with a new correspondence from either Chase, the father, or just some updates as to, you know, kind of his status. And I mean, if you've read the Cape, you know that the father goes missing, presumably dead, and so the first couple letters are from Chase specifically, and then the later ones come from the U.S. military, and they say, hey, your father is missing, and we figure out why he went missing in this book, and we figure out also some reasoning for how something that he sends back to his kid could in turn give something magical to somebody. So
Now,
or
just to give
superhero
credit, now again, this one is written by Jason Chiaramella. The art, though, this time is done by Nicholas Daniel instead of something Howard in the last one. And
I think they're both involved, actually.
art by... Oh, okay, he did page 1, and then Zach Howard. So Zach Howard. Okay, so yes. So he did the this first panel 1 pencils and inks. So the family stuff is done by this Nelson Daniel, and then Zach Howard takes back over lettering. Sorry, Fuego. Lettering by Sean Lee, and yeah. So the rest is all right there for you guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, Fuego, you want to take them through this storyline or what? It's pretty straightforward.
It's very much straightforward. So I mean, essentially, you know, Eric and Nick's father is caught in this conflict, and when we first meet both of them and they're playing superheroes as children, they're both well aware that their father is over there. He has gone missing. They don't know what has transpired. This is the explanation as to how everything has gone down.
And believe it or not, in the Cape the Fallen, the 3rd series, there's a lot more interaction between the boys and the father at a cabin and stuff, so you get a much more better sense of their relationship.
No, because that was something that I was very curious about. Was there a closeness? Was
You're
there
gonna
a
get it, buddy.
resentment?
You're gonna
Was
get
there
it.
It's
It's all gonna come at your face, neck, and chest.
Oh man, Kevin Smith style on Cecil's part over here.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, aside from everything being started with, you know, correspondence from either the father or other military people with, you know, mother and
Well, it
Eric
starts
and,
off with them dropping into Vietnam and things not going super well.
Yes, it's well, there's this guy talking about how, yeah, I got like 2 weeks left and blah blah blah. I'm gonna get back to my hot
2 weeks, 2 days to
hot-
retirement.
Yeah, exactly. Hot piece of whatever, and so on and so forth, and then he gets killed right away, and you know,
The chopper goes down.
chop it down.
Black Hawk down. We got a Black Hawk down.
Exactly. We got a red slate down. Down.
Except it's in Vietnam, of course.
Yeah.
So there's
it's
only
of the
2
serious
survivors.
variety.
It's Chase and
another
another
guy.
soldier.
But
Yeah,
they're
another
both-
guy and another guy.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
basically where I was at on him too.
Yeah, but they're
Look at
both,
this gorgeous artwork, though.
But they're basically both medics, and so they are in the middle of nowhere after being shot down. They are just being trailed by the Viet Cong, and they're trying their damnedest to get at least to a river so that maybe somebody will give them safe passage to a place where they can re-correspond with, you know, any other U.S. people. And
some
in
cool,
turn,
cool action and artwork here. You know, kind of.
it depends how into the Vietnam War you are, I would say, to really
True.
enjoy this one. And
True.
I have like mixed stuff about the Vietnam War. One of the best Vietnam things that I ever watched, I watched with you, and it was that short film. At
Oh
the,
my
at
God.
the Phoenix Film
That was
Festival.
so good.
That was fantastic.
You know what else
I
I've been
wish I
thinking
knew
about
the
from
name.
that too? The whatever matches, 20 matches.
Yeah.
I need to find out how I can seek that film out and have it in my library.
That's the tough thing with
Oh,
these
those
little
independent short films are so good
tremendous.
sometimes.
Yeah.
But this is good stuff. I mean, there's heavy Vietnam action while we see these guys trying to survive,
And it's bloody.
but they are ultimately tracked down and
captured.
But before we see that, we see something even stranger. We see a tribal man in the middle of Vietnam that is kind of just watching over things and that can fly
Yeah.
on his own.
And he's like
unexplained.
going like boom, boom, boom,
boom, boom,
boom, boom.
Because
stuff like that.
he's seeing all it's all explosions all around him all the time. So he's
Yeah,
just
so
he's not quite right in the head kind
Yeah,
of thing.
and he's probably just talking some of the only English that he actually knows at that particular point. But it's fascinating in the sheer fact that so that guy observes, and even the Viet Cong don't like him. They're like, yeah, he's like this witch doctory, whatever.
Yeah,
that kind of
they call him a
hangs
straight
out-
witch.
Yeah, they do. They don't even use a doctor term. Cecil is right, and they are leery of him, weary of him, and so to speak. But yeah, Chase and the other medic, they get captured and taken into custody, and as opposed to being killed immediately, like one guy is, Chase is thrown
Unfortunately.
in because they want to get some information
Yeah,
from him.
so this is the end of the first issue, so we don't consider it a spoiler because it's what sets off the series as it were. And yeah,
lays all the ground.
one guy gets killed, so that just leaves our man Chase, the father of the two characters from the previous series, that has now been captured by the Viet Cong, and the leader of this particular platoon of them speaks perfect English and has a son.
And there's a very interesting angle how they explain all of that. I'm not sure if you want to or not.
Go ahead.
But yeah.
Go ahead.
Basically, when the Vietnam War started, this particular father is like, I don't want my son to be exposed to all of the hatred that is probably going to come here
In America.
Yeah, here in America from the fact that we're in this conflict. So I'm going to go back to Vietnam with my son, and he gets involved in the Viet Cong military. He is like brainwashing his son, sending him on killing missions with captured prisoners, all kinds of craziness. And yeah, it's intense, and that was one of the most compelling angles that I found, in all honesty.
Really, because you could. It was more than just a dude that they were just doing, captions for. It was someone, it's actually an American that has turned on us.
And Chase asks him, and he's just like, "You're a traitor, you're a deserter, you're blah, blah, blah." And they both gave, like, kind of interesting perspectives as to why, they would have, done what they've done, I guess. So the second issue starts off with Chase captured, and apparently they've captured the witch as well and thrown him into the cage with Chase. But I makes
show
me
this because
wonder-
look at the artwork, though.
Yeah.
Look at how wonderful that is.
That one in
even
particular,
with the washed out backgrounds,
excuse me, that one in particular, I just, the earnest sadness and
there's a little bit of Tim Sale to this.
I can feel
You know
that.
what I mean? A little
Yeah.
bit of Tim Sale for those of you that know good DC and especially good DC Batman storylines. Tim Sale. There's a lot of Tim Sale. When you look at this, there's a lot more Tim Sale to this than you think.
Well, and that's because of the fact that unlike
It's a sparseness of detail.
Well, and also like the last review for the original Cape that we were talking about, there's some books that have heavy exposition and description and lots of like thought clouds or thought bubbles, whatever the hell it is, and then there's others that convey a lot of emotion and storytelling through just drawings, just pictures. This really conveys a lot with just pictures, whether it's explosions, whether it's like expressions on characters' faces, especially the son who has been dragged into this situation by his father in the Viet Cong.
Well, this is an intense situation right here because they captured them both and they basically line them up, put one of each flag in front of them and say, hey,
capture the flag.
Whoever gets to their flag first won't die.
Yeah.
And so they
Which
have to race against
bullshit.
each other, and then that's when things turn a little bit crazy, where they're tied to each other and the other guy just literally takes off into the air.
Yeah.
And it becomes a battle in midair because the American soldier just feels like he needs to survive to try and get home to his family.
And his arc, as we will see in
His
the
artwork,
third and the
so
fourth
gorgeous.
issue, man, in the fact that he is just so willing to I don't know, maim and kill to get back to his
It was a
children.
very steep slope. Like, it happened really rapidly.
Yeah.
But, you know, you're stuck in foreign territory behind enemy lines.
Yeah.
But that's where we get, and this is a bit of a spoiler here. So,
a little bit if I know what you're going to say. But
right
I think
here.
I do.
Well, right here. It's what shows. So this is where we actually get the origin of the cape itself.
That I wanted to talk about in the first review.
Indeed, but I would have been giving it away. So this patch right here is a part of his uniform, and as the shaman is getting killed, he imbues the patch with the power of flight. And it even takes him a minute to realize it, Chase, but that's what ends up happening, and then he ends up being able to fly, and that patch, he wakes up here in his cage, and he's got the and he's flying. He's hovering when he wakes up because the patch is on. Now that patch, which is what Fuego wanted to talk about, is what was, again, we're spoiling the end of this, but
Well, I mean,
it's
we don't-
one of the
we
last
don't have
things.
to, but
it was one of the
I mean-
things that was salvaged from the war. Obviously, we know that the dad didn't make it back, so this is one of the things that was salvaged from the war.
Well, yeah, because
and
we
that's what was sewn onto the cape.
Yeah, as we see in the second page of this first story, that was sewn onto the cape. And, you know, regardless of what transpires the rest of the way, you kind of assume, and you know, I don't know, Joe spelled it out that that's how it came, but Joe never envisioned where it came from. And that's the biggest thing we have to distinguish here is that...
So we know it
you
came from the father's uniform, but we don't know how it got its ability.
Nothing else. That was
So
never
this is,
anything Joe
but this they had to run by Joe, and he had to approve this story.
He did, which is
So,
cool. Yeah.
yeah.
I actually am totally okay with the interesting otherworldliness because it does give more of an explanation. I mean, the original cape was like 30-something pages, I want to say. So it really was more so about a toxic relationship where the one person who finds the cape, our buddy Eric, you know, he's a piece of crap, and he somehow, you know, finds himself in a situation to redeem.
So in this one, the son is sent out to have Chase dig the graves for both the shaman and himself, and then it's intended as a learning lesson for the son, where he's the one that's supposed to shoot Chase, and Chase, you know, this is where he springs his attack, jumps high into the air, and then brings the shovel down and smashes the guards around the little kid.
And he doesn't kill the kid, though, because of the fact that he's been appealing to the kid the entire time. He has been asking, why are you here? As Americans doing this, he's been trying to turn the tide, like emotionally, convictionally, and...
But he just takes off. And that's, again, let's make sure we take a moment to talk about the comic itself, outside of just recapping it.
So
the story
stopped
itself,
about the same time.
I think that it's definitely deserving of a 4-issue series. I think it's not too thin that it's like, it feels like, oh, this could have been condensed into 2 issues. I like that it's 4 issues. I like that it gets time to breathe. I like that we get some cool 2-page spreads. So the story itself, the only thing that's confusing is the shaman. Like, he's still pretty underexplained.
Well, yeah, they give no reason as to why he's
this way, but he's
power.
able to pass it on. So you're just supposed to assume that that's a little bit of an I wish there was more kind of situation. But the artwork is gorgeous. The artwork is awesome and engrossing. Again, focusing on the drab colors. You notice it's the only time that it's very colorful is when they're talking to the mom, and even then, in this one, it's a bit of a drab color palette. Because they know that it's not, you know, war isn't colorful. And so they're very capable color artists and illustrators in these books. But yeah, so the guy, Chase, now knows he can fly and goes and gets himself a flamethrower and just basically torches the entire village, trying to flush out the big bad.
Indeed, yeah. And I mean, back to like just the actuality of the comic book and its visual aspect and stuff, I am so compelled by the expressions on faces in this particular comic. They sell me well. I have read my fair share of comics with really poor artwork where you are supposed to feel the emotion from the writing as opposed to, you know, just what you see on these particular protagonists' faces and all of the different stuff that is going
The
on.
antagonist face.
Yeah, both.
In the case of
both,
this.
both in that regard.
Very heavy stuff.
Yeah,
like the
just look at how angry and just like
even the good guys
on a mission,
aren't that good in
on a
this
mission
series.
of retribution.
Yeah.
No, it is almost and that's one thing that I will say.
I don't know that I
this book
showed
does.
this cover very, very closely. So
Yeah, as I was reading this book yesterday again, I remembered it well enough, but the one thing that profoundly stuck out to me is that, like, in the original Cape, it is most definitely, he is a villain, 100%. This guy is an anti-hero.
Anti-hero.
And
but he starts to lose himself.
He does, but it inevitably happens with these kind of characters with superpowers, right? Like,
it usually takes a
at
couple
least in the
years worth
portrayal.
of comics before it happens, not
Yeah.
story number one.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so this one picks up with the leader going for revenge on Chase, and Chase, you know, speeding into the confrontation with his flamethrower.
Looking super determined.
Yeah. And it's again, the artwork continues throughout, and
I do like this story, man. I mean,
I do too.
I don't
You
love
walked
it
in
like the
tonight
first
making me
one.
think like you didn't like it very much.
No, I enjoyed it,
Look at
but
that.
it's just always a tough thing where this is the equivalent. If we're
Dream
gonna
sequence.
if we're gonna make a King reference, this is the equivalent of somebody
I mean,
adapt. No, well, I mean, like
appropriate.
think of somebody adapting Pet Sematary, and I love Mary Lambert's adaptation of Pet Sematary, but then you watch Pet Sematary 2, and King had nothing to do with that, and you're just like, how do they expand and, you know, enhance the mythology in this little patch universe or whatever? I think this does a decent job. It really, really does. It's not bad. I mean, I would proudly proclaim if I thought this book sucked. This book does not. It only just...
Look at this. This artwork here. He's literally flying in the air, about to face down the bad guy in a chopper, and he's just flying with a flamethrower.
Which
It's
is almost a
so
crazy
cool.
callback to spoilers, the plane bit in the previous one with
Right.
his son.
His
you
son
know?
with, yeah, you're right, with
Yeah.
the chainsaw. So yeah, they have an airborne fight, and I mean, look at this. Look at this
It's
two-page
really
spread.
cool. Yeah.
How awesome
the
is
art
that?
is dope in this book,
It's
man.
so cool.
It is really, really.
And
it's
you made
so
the,
well
you made
realized.
the example in the first review of Chronicle. This does. This feels like Chronicle in war times in Vietnam. You know what I mean? It's got that same sort of gritty, you know,
Chronicle,
power.
Brightburn,
Absolute
The
power
Boys,
corrupts.
like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
You know, and I love that they're focusing on that, and this is a really prime example of it.
Because he starts off so good. Like, Eric doesn't really start off so good,
Look
obviously.
I can't even show this
know?
part, but remember how aggressive that end was?
Yeah.
It doesn't end well for our man.
Yeah. Chase's son, Eric, in the previous book does not start off that good. Whereas this one definitely epitomizes that arc more so of the power corrupting that we see in, you know, with Dane DeHaan and Chronicle, that we see in Brightburn, that we see in The Boys. Although we don't really see much of an arc in The Boys with characters turning from good to
Not
evil.
yet.
They're just like,
Not yet.
you know,
We have another season.
Yeah.
But, and then it of course, you know, ends back in the present, or the actually previous to the present when they're boys. And, you know, the mom's just finished reading the letters. She's extremely sad, but she's gotten the care package, and so she goes ahead and sews the patch onto the cape, and that is the beginning of the end, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
Although
that
we're
is the
still-
cape, 1969.
Still a little ways away from seeing that proverbial end in terms, but I'm actually very curious to read that third book now that you
Now-
have hinted as to what it's all about.
Now, okay, so about the third book. The third book is another 4-issue series. So that third volume is The Cape Fallen. And so that is another 4-issue series. Now, this one actually takes place in a 3-day window right here where he disappears before the back half of the book. So
no,
this
that's- yeah.
takes place in continuity,
That's
you know, between a couple of pages of that book. And the idea is what happens if he is, and as I mentioned, there's more going into the history of the kids and their father, because it shows them going to a cabin the weekend before he goes off to war. And so they go and have this whole weekend at the cabin, and then he goes back to the cabin as an adult, and that's when he finds a group of kids playing D&D, and he joins, and unfortunately, he doesn't play fair, so to speak.
Oh boy, you're giving me a very interesting little hint as to what this next series could be about.
So
I'm
we'll be
stoked.
reviewing that next. But that's going to do it for The Cape 1969. Let us know in the comments down below if you guys knew about this one, if you've read it, or if you're only just hearing about The Cape now through these reviews. Are you going to seek this one out as well? Let us know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe. Ding that notification bell to make sure you don't miss episodes going forward. But until the review of The Cape Fallen, I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias to our patrons, I have been Jaime and Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.